Danielle, thank you so much for chatting with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I love this. So this is a fun day. You've got great speakers.
One quick thing, just make sure your mic is super close so that way
Yep.
we all hear your
Sorry.
amazing responses. So for our viewers who don't know or maybe didn't catch NOSH, the website this week, we actually wrote about Nuttzo recently, who launched their Bites, which is in the refrigerated bar category. So congrats on the launch of Bites.
Thank you.
You've been in business now for 8 years with
Correct.
your nut butters, and this is the first product launch beyond that. Why launch into snacks now?
Well, we really felt like we strategically planned out to, not come out with a ton of SKUs for the nut butter. We have 2 amazing flavors. We have the Peanut Pro and the Power Fuel, and we listen to our consumers, and I also love to cook. And so these actual bites I was making for the past 5 or 6 years for yoga events and things like that. And consumers really want fresh, and they want something portable. And as I'm sure you're well aware, as more people are not eating 3 square meals a day, they're actually snacking, which I'm a big snacker.
Oh, I graze all day. I'm constantly eating.
Me too.
So you said you made this in your kitchen. This was a recipe that you were using for yourself for a while. What was the scaling process like for you in order to make this a product that could actually be sold in stores and produced at that larger level?
Well, I mean, I've already got nut butter, so I thought it would be quite easy, right? It's just coming up with a recipe and, giving it to a co-packer that does bars. How hard could it be? And lo and behold, it's taken a little over 12 months after we've started this. And the reason, the biggest thing that we've come into problems with is I made an amazing bar, these little balls at home, but then taking that recipe and actually having that run on big machinery, problem. And then really sticking with you want it to be healthy and I want it to be palatable. And we had a co-packer that I won't name names, but that wanted us to put in tapioca syrup. And it just was, I was so on the verge because we're like, oh my gosh, just say yes. And I'm like, I can't. And so then you just push it off, further. But I always feel like there's always a great place, a great reason to, how to be able to solve something if you just keep looking. And sure enough, we just kept looking and we found a co-packer that can make it. So.
Now, the refrigerated bar category is new, but it is growing, and there are more emergents in the set every day, with yourself being the latest. How does your product differentiate itself from others that are currently in the set?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, well, first of all, our bars have 60% of Nuttzo, so the Peanut Pro and the Power Fuel. And then I'm a big collagen. We just heard Brett in there from Kavoo, and they, Vital Proteins. And I'm one of those that puts a lot of collagen in my smoothies and my coffee every morning. So I've been doing that for, 2 years. So Nuttzo's all about forward thinking, and we're all about adding ingredients to an amazing tasting something, like a snack, and giving it to the public. And so another thing that Brett had said, not to just regurgitate what he said, but was about the sugar. And I really try to stay away from sugar. So what was tricky was coming up with a bar with only 5 grams of sugar and 10 grams of protein. Because if you start looking on the back, there's some great tasting refrigerated bars out there, but they have really high sugar. So collagen and sugar are the 2 differentiating points of our bars besides the nut butter. So.
And one thing, I've talked to broker John McGrory about this quite often. He was helpful. We did a story about refrigerated bars earlier in the year as well. And one thing that is, it's kind of a double-edged sword in the category, is what give the fresh component that gives bars its appeal to a lot of consumers also makes it a little bit more difficult on the go. But your product is a little different than others on the market in the sense of its shelf life and its ability to live for a certain period of time outside of the fridge. Can you kind of talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, and the biggest misconception, we're using ingredients that are already shelf stable, so that's half the battle, but because of the high oil content, we do have to worry about rancidity. So as you just stated, yes, that's why they're in the refrigerated section. We don't have any preservatives in there, but it can be shelf stable out of the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks. So we do put that on the packaging, so you can take it on a plane, you can take it hiking and camping and all that fun stuff and not have to be afraid that it's going to spoil. There's nothing that's going to make you sick. It just would start going rancid and lose flavor.
Now, aside from the actual just getting the product up and running, what was the most difficult part of creating this in terms of even just your operations or the strategies that you have set up for yourself thus far in terms of your business?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is just that it's going to be cold storage. So we have to think about how are we going to manufacture our bars, have some, because the place we're manufacturing does not have a refrigerated room. And then, so we've got to bring in a truck and actually have that sitting there and just putting the bars in as they're being made. And then where are we going to store the bars, and and how is that working? And so there's added costs there that we have to think about, as well as just the logistics. So it's a little complicated for sure.
Yep. No, I totally think that. And especially as brands are just looking to platform and go look beyond categories, those fresh categories are really appealing. But like you said, it has a lot of additional costs or challenges there that you have to be able to navigate. So it's interesting to see how brands are able to do that, just like yourself. Now, going to your butters for a little bit. Peanut butter is something that's found in over 90% of households. It's just it's something that people are eating all the time. But a lot of the brands out there, especially if we're looking even outside of just the natural sector, they're really nostalgic, but they are loaded kind of in sugar or have, when you're thinking of those taste profiles that have that like nostalgic appeal to it. How have you been able to shape your marketing campaign, your education campaign around Nuttzo in the sense of just that this is maybe a different taste profile than you grew up eating, but it's still something you should be eating?
Yeah, great question. So, you know the whole story, how it got founded, and it was because of one of our sons we adopted. But the whole premise of Nuttzo is that we want to get the most nutrition out of it. So my philosophy is, well, first of all, I think peanuts get a really bad rap, and sometimes they cry themselves to sleep. But I actually love peanuts, and I grew up on Jif Smooth and then got healthy. But, the whole philosophy is to take the profile of peanuts, which actually have an amazing their molecular structure for protein, and actually super boosting it a little bit. So somebody that loves peanut butter, like my dad, like you're not going to get him to try Power Fuel. There's just no way. But to almost do like a baby steps, like it still tastes like peanut butter, but you're getting all these different vitamins and minerals from an assortment of different nuts and seeds. So it's a little bit, it's healthier. And then when you buy high quality ingredients, you don't need to add sugar. That's like a really easy way to take cheap ingredients and make it taste good. And again, big on the no sugar, so we don't do that.
And one thing that you guys do when it comes in terms of your marketing strategy and just reaching out to consumers is you have a big following in terms of just social media influencers. Can you describe just a little bit what that relationship has been like, and how do you keep that authentic and going with and work with those influencers on accounts, especially Instagram is huge right now?
Right, it's super huge. I think you have to be authentic, and I try every day to have my team that way, and everything we touch, because I don't want anyone to ever buy Nuttzo and think it's not authentic. So it's the same with influencers. Any influencers that we work with already love the product, get the story, and love it. And I think that's super important. If you just start throwing a big wide net, you lose the authenticity, and I think consumers are smart now, and they can really see that. And they can tell the influencers of that are just getting paid and not really into the product. I mean, it's like, especially in story time, it just happens really quickly. So we've grown that organically for the last 8 years, and it's, paid off. So we're excited about that.
And we have about a minute left, but I know that this obviously is a new product for you, but you're always innovating in terms of just flavor profiles and just trying to get new nutritious ingredients in there. What is next on the pipeline for 2018?
So I've been working for the last few years on this, and actually had to convince my VP of marketing, which happens to be my sister, that pecan, which I think tastes so amazing, that there's something pecan coming. So really excited about it.
I can get behind this.
All right, good. I'm going to have you call her afterwards.
Perfect. I'm a twin myself, so I understand the working with your twin, and the best supporters, and also they're ones who will call you out.
Totally. I've got to work really hard to convince her when she says no.
Awesome. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for being with us today. Congratulations on the launch of the bites. I definitely use that as my early flight breakfast on the way here. So really appreciate the time that you're spent with us.
Thank you. Thanks.